Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the LDM Show. On today's show, we're going to be discussing trust in Allah, and we have the co-founder of Aira. Assalamu alaikum, Saqib Sadar. How are you doing?
How are you, Saburi? Okay.
You good?
Good.
Okay, so what I really want to speak to you about is Aira and basically how Aira began.
Sure.
And for anyone out there who wants to basically start a Dawah project or a Dawah team even, something about trust in Allah and how it began and how trust in Allah is key. It's not just about resources and the other things that you have. So if you can begin there.
Yeah. Okay. Jazakallah khair for having me firstly. Alhamdulillah. I think it's a very good topic, and I think when we look at Dawah, any kind of Islamic work, I think for a lot of people, they start looking at the challenges that lie ahead of them perhaps. And maybe they think, oh my God, I need to do this and do that and do this and do this before I can do anything. And actually, if you look at it, this is from Shaitan.
Okay.
I think we have to be very clear, because Dawah is not like a business where you need to produce a detailed business plan, you need to produce this. You're working in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is mentioned in the hadith, very famous hadith about tying the camel, tawakkul on Allah. You tie the camel and then you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't go into the details of the camel has to be tied with this rope and this wire in this way, in this manner, etc.
Just type a camel and
you tie the camel and trust in Allah, because if anything was to happen, it would happen anyway. Nothing you can do about it. Okay? Maybe someone comes and uncuts the rope and the camel flees. You couldn't plan for that. So what's important really, I think, in the Dawah is that we have a mindset that we are worshipping Allah. We do that which is obvious and apparent, i.e. tie the camel, and then we get on with it.
So taking this to Aira, say in 2008, all you guys really had was a concept, right? So how did the tawakkul in Allah play a part at that point? And we had a concept. And how did you motivate yourself to believe that this can actually happen? Because many people have ideas.
No, absolutely. And I think, this is a very key point. Really, from our point of view, we were talking for a while in terms of, look, this is what the community needs, what the ummah needs. And it just dawned on us that actually the opportunity is now. We have the relationships, we have the know-how, the basic know-how of how to put together a team, how to get funding. We've got relationships, we know how to do Dawah. I mean, I hope so. Abdurrahim was there. If not, I'd be worried. Okay. And we said, you know what? We can do it. Why don't we use our skills, our ability at a very basic level to set up the kind of organisation that we always believed we wanted to be part of and we believed was needed. And that was it. We said, let's do it. What should we call it? I remember it took us maybe 20 seconds. We said, do some research, education. Islamic Education Research Association, actually we called it, but I changed it to Academy afterwards.
Okay.
So, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. Too much detail.
It's something slightly different, because what you're mentioning there is an idea, an organization, but the goal of Aira was to deliver the message to every single human being on earth who has not heard. So that's a different thing altogether in terms of how much trust you need to have and how much... It's such a big idea,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing from our perspective was that the Dawah had been happening in the UK. It wasn't that there was no Dawah, but it was a case that the Dawah hadn't really moved forward in any sizable way. And also the scale of the Dawah, hadn't really increased. So we were still doing Dawah tables with the same materials as we were doing in the 1990s.
Ahmadidat ones and Zakir
and it was fantastic, and it's what the Dawah needed. It was catapulted, but still it was done by only a few good men, and it was just a few men, and this is not what the Dawah is about, because the Dawah is about calling and saving humanity from eternal damnation.
Sure.
So from our perspective, it was a case of realizing, what, we can make a bit of a difference. We had that vision. That vision comes from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran, and what Rasulullah has told us in Hadith, in terms of Islam reaching every home. So that was a real motivator for us, and really it's a case of saying, okay, fine, this is what we need to do, let's go out and do it. Even if we don't succeed, inshallah we will learn Allah's pleasure, and that's the key thing for us to do.
Okay, that's really, really powerful. But when it comes down to Ayer's actual goal, which was to give the message of Islam to every single human being, why this particular time? Why 2008 in July or whenever this idea actually came? I mean, what do you think of the global situation that has led up to this point? Do you think there's something big going on?
Yeah, I do. I think firstly, importantly, we need to understand this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. We are simply pawns in this.
Yes, yeah.
That's it, okay? Why did this thing happen and that thing happen? Why did, I met Yusuf a year before. He was in India 2 months. Couldn't get hold of him. I bumped into him again. Met Abdul Rahim. We set up a company. Well, they did anyway. I joined them.
Green and Chambers.
Yeah, mashallah, Green and Chambers. This is another thing altogether. Another story altogether. Okay. We made these contacts and everything was falling into place. And you have to see that this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. The conditions globally, yes. You look at social media, huge.
Yeah.
The ability to reach millions of people in an instant.
Click of a button.
Absolutely. It's happened today. The relationships that we have today. Television, Peace TV has catapulted individuals and allowed us to utilize that awareness. So I think, and in the expertise we have now, we have to bear in mind as Muslims, we are second generation. We had situations before when what I would call is organizations from the Muslim world established themselves in the West.
Yep.
And essentially they became, in a reverse kind of way, colonial outposts, where their goals were in the Muslim world. We are now seeing Muslims born in this country, born in the West, setting up their own institutions, setting up organizations driven by values, perhaps closer in terms of what the Quran was asking us to do in terms of the Dawah.
Okay.
So I think the time is now, and really it's about grasping that. And this is the important thing to understand. It's not about detailed planning and thinking. Just get out there and do it, inshallah.
Excellent.
I'm not saying don't do any planning, but make it simple. If you're cooking breakfast, you don't make a checklist or do a SWOT analysis, okay? You just know, I need to get the eggs, I need to get the oil, I fry the damn things and chuck it on the plate. Khalas. Okay? Put the eggs on the plate. If you don't, you waste your time, end up with egg on your face. Okay. So just do the dawah.
On that brilliant note, I think everybody watching has a very good idea. It's about proactivity and putting your trust in Allah. So fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Not a problem.
We'll see you again, inshallah.
Inshallah. Wa alaikum salam.